Since the end of November last year, Cordlife has faced quite a few challenges. In our previous Journalist Reacts video, we covered your views regarding Cordlife Group and how the storage lapses had affected its customers. So what's next? We have put together a timeline of events to break down what has happened at Cordlife following the discovery of its storage lapses. On January 15th, based on a report that they had prepared for the market regulator, Singapore Exchange Regulation, Cordlife found that the temperature of one of its storage tanks actually reached as high as 20.4 degrees Celsius in 2021. This is really high because it needs to be below negative 150 degrees Celsius. On January 17th, Cordlife said it will send all samples that it has to a third-party lab for testing on January 18th. On January 23rd, one of its substantial shareholders, Robust Plan, and Robust Plan's beneficial owner, Shanghai Danheng Capital Management, said they had ceased to be a substantial shareholder of Cordlife because they sold 4.6 million shares for about $1.5 million. Following this, Cordlife mainly has two main substantial shareholders, which are Nanjing Xinjiekou Department Store, which is a Shanghai-listed department store owner, as well as Transglobal Real Estate Group, which deals in real estate investments. Because Cordlife is a pretty global-ish group, they have a few subsidiaries in Hong Kong, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, and they also recently set up a new Vietnam subsidiary. So it's safe to say that they have operations overseas and they're not completely out of work. However, their biggest client base is in Singapore based on their revenue. So in February, media reports stated that Cordlife has started issuing refunds to affected parents. However, not all parents are happy with the refunds offers that they have received from Cordlife, and some are even looking at possible legal action. Cordlife said they are refunding their parents the amount they have paid so far since 2022 and 2023, as well as GST. However, a lot of parents are saying that since the lapses have actually started since 2020, they feel that the refund from 2022 is not enough to cover the amount that they had paid. And quite a number of parents had paid upfront, which is like in thousands of dollars. And they also feel that as Cordlife is only offering refunds instead of additional payment like compensation on top of the refunds, they don't feel that this is enough for them to justify picking up the refund from Cordlife. Ivan Yu, who is the new CEO of Cordlife, he took over from Tampo Lan, who is the group CEO who said she will be stepping down in October last year, and her last day was moved to February this year. So Ivan Yu, his parents are actually from Transglobal Real Estate Group. His older brother is also one of the directors that was nominated from Transglobal Real Estate Group to be on Cordlife's board. And because Transglobal Real Estate Group has this 27.88% stake, it shows that his family, I guess, generally has an interest in Cordlife, and is probably the reason why he was asked to become the CEO. For himself, he was a former Transglobal Executive Director, and he also served as an investment manager at Macquarie Infrastructure and Real Assets in Singapore. BT actually ran an opinion piece questioning whether or not Ivan Yu had the requisite experience, because while CEOs do not need to have sector-specific knowledge, it would have been pretty preferred in a healthcare company given the amount of regulatory requirements that healthcare companies face in Singapore. Plus, Cordlife is in a crisis right now, so they could actually use fresh leadership, not someone from their substantial shareholders, to actually inspire confidence. Given the ongoing publicity with Cordlife also said it's quite difficult for them to actually get new people who wanted to come in and lead the company because of the issues they're facing now. So they felt it'd be better to get someone from their own side first. So in March, the substantial shareholders Nanjing Xinjiekou Department Store as well as Transglobal Real Estate Group, they sent separate requisition notices for an extraordinary general meeting. And both sides actually called for the removal of certain directors on the board. Just one day after this announcement, on March 22nd, Cordlife disclosed that 4 of its directors, as well as the former group CEO Tampo Lan, has actually been arrested by the Commercial Affairs Department and released on bail. On March 27th, the Chief Financial Officer, who was assisting with the CAD's investigations, was also arrested and released on bail for similar reasons. Cordlife said that the directors will continue to stay on the board and provide guidance, as they have been the ones who have been coordinating the resolving of issues that Cordlife is going through at the moment. So early in April, Cordlife called for a trading halt, which means it's pending an announcement. And on April 8th, they announced that about 5,300 more cord blood units, which were stored in one of the 6 tanks that were currently being tested, and 1 dry shipper were actually at high risk of being impacted by the temperature excursions. A dry shipper is this storage tank that they use for transferring the cord blood. The cord blood is actually not supposed to be in the dry shipper, they're supposed to be in the cryogenic tanks itself. The dry shipper is not meant for long-term storage, so that's probably why this had occurred. In total, about 7,500 cord blood units stored at Cordlife were either found to have been damaged or deemed at high risk of being adversely affected by the temperature excursions. So this means that more parents' cord blood units have been found to be of issue, and that is quite bad. The shares would have tanked after such an announcement because it shows that there are more issues at Cordlife that have to be resolved. And shareholder confidence, which was already shaken by the first batch of cord blood units that were found to have been damaged in November last year, was likely to have taken another blow as more cord blood units were found to have been at high risk of being damaged. The company would likely have to fork out more money on refunds, which would be a detriment to its financial position, and investors were likely to have been scared off by such an announcement. On April 17th, Cordlife has issued a notice stating it aims to raise $8.2 million from a private placement from two entities. Following this, one of the substantial shareholders that was brought up earlier, Nanjing Xinjiekou Department Store, and its nominated directors Zai and Chen actually filed an injunction application before Singapore's High Court to restrain the company from issuing new shares. And this interim injunction was upheld. So Cordlife applied to have the injunction set aside, but its application was dismissed on May 13. On May 13 itself, Cordlife said that it has to terminate this $8.2 million private placement due to this injunction that was upheld by the Singapore court. The company had explained that although it had cash and cash equivalents of about $7.1 million as at December 31st last year, more than half of the money was stored in India and Malaysia, which were its overseas operations, and it did not wish to compromise its operations there by diverting the money back to Singapore. Later in its annual general meeting, the chief executive Ivan Yu said the company did not opt for debt financing as the banks were scrutinizing Cordlife's accounts, and negotiations with financial institutions, as well as interest costs on high rates at the moment, could mean that the route was not feasible for Cordlife as it required money urgently to address refunds for parents. Now we're into May. Remember previously we mentioned that customers were unhappy with the refunds offered by Cordlife? Two groups of parents and customers have actually come together to push for legal action and recourse against Cordlife. Both of these legal actions are still at the preliminary stages, as we mentioned. The first group of around 150 parents has engaged Peter Low Chambers and completed its first round of onboarding all of the parties. The second group is represented by Withers Carter Wong, which is another law firm, and they're currently onboarding all the customers who have signed up for this. And BT understands that there are about 200 parents. Both groups have mentioned that they are not yet demanding anything from Cordlife. But Cordlife is aware that its customers, some of them are seeking legal action or at least seeking legal advice. Sometime in mid-May, Cordlife held its financial year 2023 annual general meeting, where the requisitioned resolutions from earlier were voted on. Over 60% of shareholders actually voted to remove 3 directors. As for Joseph Wong, the last independent director they wanted to remove, he has already stated that he intends to retire after the annual general meeting. After these directors were removed, the shareholders also voted to the board 3 individuals who were proposed by Nanjing Xinjiekou Department Store. So the company's board has been largely rejigged, and the directors who were most involved with addressing the lapses in communicating with MOH were the ones that were removed. Following the board shakeups, it remains to be seen where Cordlife goes from here. Investigations by the Commercial Affairs Department into the directors who are now out on bail are also ongoing. Despite efforts to address concerns, such as issuing refunds and appointing a new CEO, can Cordlife successfully restore its financial health and regain the trust of its shareholders amid ongoing legal proceedings? Feel free to leave your questions and concerns below, and BT will try its best to answer them. Thank you.